want to thank our partners, and they are for this day Almi Invest, Norrlandsfonden, Näringslivsbolaget och Permobil. So much thank you to you guys for actually making this possible and this happening. So big applause. And now it's actually time for one of our partners to enter the stage. They are one of the biggest manufacturers of wheelchairs in the world, and it all started in Timrå, a neighboring municipality to Sundsvall, in 1963. And they still have their headquarters there. They are going to talk about their latest release, among other things. So, very, very welcome to Tomas Stenlund, Manager Software and Electronics Development. Welcome.
Thanks. Are we having a great day? Yes. Yeah, so am I. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to tell you a story, and it's partly my own story, and it's partly Permobil's story. And the idea behind that is that I want you to get an insight into our users, why Permobil exists, and also what we believe in. And as all good stories, it has an element of evil, an element of good, and a surprise ending. I started at Permobil for 2.5 years ago, and I was given the task to start up this software and electronics department. And before I signed, I already knew that this was something completely different than I'd done before. It was another knowledge domain, wheelchairs, medical devices, people with disabilities and so on. So I started off by reading a lot of research papers and publications and stuff like that about ALS, MS, MD, spinal cord injuries, cerebral palsy, and I can tell you there are some really nasty stuff out there. And after a while, we were near our completion of our first digital product. I traveled to a hospital in Denver to set up a field trial, and I got a chance to meet all of the users on a one-on-one sessions where we installed the device and gave them a walkthrough on how to use it and what kind of feedback we were looking for. And as always, when you meet new people, you start chit-chatting about life and things like that. And at that time, I honestly really felt a huge, big fist plunged right into the middle of my face. Not a physical one, an emotional one. And, well, one blow you kind of can cope with. But then came the second one, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, and so on. I was completely emotionally drained after that day. That was basically the first time ever I had tears in my eyes because of work or at work, sort of. And it wasn't really because I felt sorry for them in a way. It was more like I realized that I understood the reason why they sat in the wheelchair, not their needs. Let's see now. Sorry about that. So our founder, Per Rudén, said this 50 years ago. It's still valid today, and it's probably going to be valid for 100 more years, that every person with a disability has the right to have his or her handicap compensated as far as possible with the same technical standard as all the technical stuff we use today, sort of. And that is why we exist at Permobil. We believe that it is a basic human right for all people with disability to be as active, independent, and healthy as possible, and regardless of age, sex, location, and whatever you can think about. And because of what we believe, we need to take our technology further what we do today. We need to expand markets. We need to make sure that our products actually reflects the way we think and what we believe in. This is our first wheelchair. It was state-of-the-art at that time. Now I guess it kind of just looked cool in a sort of way. This is our latest wheelchair. So you can see the change and the things that have changed, well, with the technology that comes forward. It's a wheelchair, but you don't only sit in it anymore. You can actually stand in it. So because of what we believe, we make a wheelchair that looks like this. Why do we do that? Kids play on the floor. Because of what we believe, why would we do suspension on the wheelchair that is really state-of-the-art and dampening and things like that? Because if you have a spinal cord injury or in constant pain, you're going to feel every pothole you run over with a wheelchair. Because of what we believe, we do anterior tilt, and that means that you kind of lean the chair forward a bit. So why do we do that? Because you want to wash your hands after you've been to the bathroom. So really it isn't only about getting yourself from point A to point B in a wheelchair or adjust your seat so you get comfortable. It's just those small tiny bits of things that is called living, more or less. It's not my kid, but why does the kid do that? Exploring correctly. He or she just want to know how a pig tastes, probably. That is what kids do. They run around, they trip over, they hurt themselves, they have a laugh, they cry. And all of that is exploring. And research has shown that exploring is vital in early ages for brain development. So kids with disabilities don't get to explore that much. Because of that, and because of what we believe, we work together with universities and doing a lot of stuff. That is actually just a normal car you can buy at a store for toys, and adjust it a bit so they can kind of just, when they press it, it runs forward. So there's more pictures out of that. And you can usually always see on the kids that they actually think that is fun, instead of being pushed around in a stroller or things like that. Because of these things, we believe, or we think, that we really do make a difference out there. So, for the first time in Sundsvall, in Sweden, in Europe, we're launching today, actually, right here at Grenborgs, a new wheelchair. It's a mid-wheel drive. It has a lot of those features I've already mentioned earlier on, and it also is going to be always connected to our service back home. And we'll talk a bit more about that later on. Thanks. And in addition to this new wheelchair as well, with a platform that comes with it, we also are working on a couple of new IT services that goes on top of that, and that is going to be released a bit later. One is a fleet management system that allows the dealers, resellers, service centers, and to actually connect to the wheelchairs and retrieve data about the wheelchair to see how if there are any problems with it and whether or not they need to replace some parts and things like that. Also to do proactive maintenance, follow-up and service and those things. If you look at the US market, for instance, a service technician usually needs 2 trips. One to go out and check what kind of fault it is, and the second one to pick up the stuff to fix it. And then in addition to this, we also do have something for the end user, the person in the wheelchair, service which we have already released, which is called the virtual seating coach, and it is going to be released in a new with new features later on. It helps you actually use the seat in the best possible way, so a therapist can give you sort of a regimen and remind you whenever you need to readjust your seating so you don't get pressure ulcers and things like that. And you can then, and the therapist can then do follow-up on how well the user performed. So that is what's coming for this release. And also, in addition to this platform also kind of gives a insight or a promise to actually what is there for us in the future as well. And there are a lot of user needs we are looking at, and there are a lot of technologies areas around, several thousand of them, and some of them are more interesting in this area. Augmented reality, for instance, which could maybe let you drive the wheelchair more easily. AI and deep thinking. There's a saying in this business that if you've seen a person with a disability, you have only seen one. So generalization can only take you as far as possible. You always miss a few parts of that. Smart textiles. Which is packed with sensors and different types of medical status. Different types of how to control the wheelchair. Brain control, for instance. And the car industry has gone quite far when it comes to autonomous drive or semi-autonomous drives. That is also a really interesting thing. And last but not least, Permobil as such is transforming to be a value-based healthcare company instead of just putting out products. And this data that we collect now is going to use for research and to be able for us to provide evidence that the products we put out there really makes a difference. That was it. Thanks.
Wow, I don't know about you guys, but that sort of why really touched my heart. Wow, I will not forget this. Any questions from you guys? I think they all sort of yes.
Darn.
You're not going to get off that easily.
Okay.
No way. Ashley Todd, Nordic Vibe. I mean, I've just been inspired earlier by by Eric and Jeff and thinking very much, questioning things, curiosity, and then also what Jeff was saying now about user experience. And I think it's fantastic the way you explain, both from an emotional perspective, how you were feeling and understanding the customer, in a way that American Airlines probably wasn't feeling Jeff earlier. So can you give us, you've obviously done a fantastic job of Permobil in really understanding the customer and on a ground level and for the kids and stuff. How do you do that? How do you build that culture? How does it, what have you learned since you came into the company?
I kind of can talk from my own experience more, because we were in the discussion about communication earlier on. And I think it's actually the eye-to-eye contact That is really, really important, because it wasn't until then, at least I really didn't understand the real user need. You needed to actually meet them, touch them, feel them, to be able to understand it. And it's also, just getting that revelation was also, is a force you can use to drive your technology and drive the work you do and actually do better every single day. So.
And who helped you to look that person in the eye? Who was it that helped you? How did you find yourself looking someone in the eye and being with a customer like that?
Well, we have a team, well, not a team, but we do something we call ethnographic analysis and things like that, and set up, try to do personas and things like, that kind of thing. And also we usually meet them on regular basis, our customers, and even if it's too late in some kind, we need to do field trials as well. That's a good opportunity to learn a lot more.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We have time for one more question. Anyone? Oh, Greg.
One of my amazing brothers in LA is in a wheelchair, and I want to get him one of these or help him get one. So are you doing these in the States yet?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
we manufacture them in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, then I'll make sure to introduce him.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. One of our key questions here is how can we change the future? How can we co-create to change the future? And I think Permobil is doing a great job of changing the future for many, many people in the way that they actually have really thought about the question why they are doing this.